Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Miriam Dulcent here. I am an enrolled agent, former IRS agent. I am here. My mission is to empower you, the taxpayer, especially the small business owners and the tax professional, to make sure we are not afraid of the IRS. To ask, how can I make an expense deductible instead of saying, is this deductible? So I did a video regarding the child tax credit, the expansion of what's being discussed at Congress right now. We're expecting a response by January 29th. And now I did promise I will do a video regarding all the requirements for the child tax credit. So let's get started. First, let's say who qualifies for the credit. If you have any qualifying dependent that has a social security number valid for employment in the US, you are in a great path to start. But first, let me explain what a dependent is. For tax purposes, a dependent is someone you can put on your return other than yourself and your spouse. You and your spouse don't count as dependents, so you cannot take child tax credit for yourself, or you cannot take any type of credit that has to do with dependent for yourself or for your spouse. Usually, if you file a joint return, the first person on the return, on the first line, is considered to be the taxpayer. Okay? Now, let's continue. There are 6 tests that your qualifying dependent must meet in order to be qualified to take that credit. Test number 1 is the age test. Your dependent must be under the age of 17 by the end of the tax year that you are reporting. Number 2 is a relationship test, which includes your son, your daughter, siblings, niece, nephew, or could also be your grandchildren. Number 3 is the support test. Your qualifying dependent cannot provide more than half of their financial support, meaning that you have to provide more than half of the financial support: housing, entertainment, food. The next test, the residency test. They have to live with you for at least for more than half of the year. If they are in the military or away for school, they could still meet the residency test. The next test is the dependent status. They must be a dependent, and they cannot file a joint return with someone else, or they cannot be dependent on someone else's return. And the final one is citizenship. They must be either U.S. citizen or U.S. national or U.S. resident alien. So the 6 tests your qualifying child must meet. And the last one is for you. You have to meet the income test. If you're single, you cannot have no more than $200,000 of income, annual income. If you are married, filing jointly, the maximum is $400,000. The good news is, even if you reach that threshold, you can still have partial of that credit, or if depends how much you make, it can be eliminated altogether. Okay, so how do you claim that credit? You must file Form 1040 by the deadline. It is April 15, or by the extension due date, which is October 15. But you have to remember, just a side note, extension is for filing the return. If you owe money, it is due by April 15th, and if you don't pay it, there will be penalties and interest. And as a side note again, I do help taxpayers. I help people fight the IRS, get rid of their penalties. They have first-time abatement and they have reasonable cause. Recently, I worked with a client of mine. I was able to remove over $50,000 of penalties and interest. I am not making this up. And they had already taken the first-time abatement penalties. So I had to fight IRS for reasonable cause, which wasn't too hard, but I know exactly what to say and what to do to get it. Why do I know? How do I know? I was on the inside and I know what to say. So if you get those audit letters, those notices, go ahead and contact my company. I am the owner of Focus Financial. All the information is down below. Now let's get back to business. How about the refund? If you e-file and your return is error-free, you should get your refund by the end, around February 27th. And if it's not filed electronically, expect it to be longer. And by saying error-free, it's really crucial that you report that credit correctly and everyone is qualified on the return. I can tell you stories. I've done the initiative that they do every year with preparers where we check for due diligence. And I used to do that. I remember that case as if it was yesterday. I assessed over $250,000 to the tax preparer for mistakes they made with the credits. Whether they were fraudulent or unintentional, you, tax preparer, you need to do your due diligence. Make sure your clients are qualified to take those credits, all the dependent credits that they have. And you, taxpayers, do not let any tax preparer do any fraudulent stuff, any creative things on your return, because the IRS will come after you if they find the error, and you have to pay the money back plus interest, and it's subject to penalties, and you could even be banned from getting those credits. So it's very important. IRS take those credits very, very seriously, because it's not money that you worked for. It's literally money they're giving you back to help you with your dependents. So you have to be honest when you're doing your return. You have to do things legally and ethically. That's what IRS is looking for. And just a few points I want to mention. There are other credits you could be qualified for if your dependents are qualified for the child tax credit, such as the education credit, the earned income tax credit, and the other dependent credits. And if your child is not a qualifying dependent for the child tax credit, they could also, or you could also qualify to get the other dependents credit. That one is only $500. It's a non-refundable credit. Remember, the child tax credit is refundable, meaning that it can create a refund, and the non-refundable credit, that means you cannot create a refund. What do I mean by non-refundable? If you owe $600 and you have an other dependent credit of $500, so that means you only have to send $100 for your tax payment. However, if your tax is $400 and you claim the other dependent, what it means is that you don't owe anything. You'll be zero, and the $100 will be forfeited. Okay, so make sure you check back to this channel for the videos. Come back, make sure you share this video to someone who might be benefited from it, and I want you to please click the notification bell, subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment. And thank you for watching. I will see you at the next step to financial freedom.